Shalom, everybody. How are you today, this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are? Great to have you back. My name is Rabbi Ilan Adler, and I'm here tonight for our usual, I think this is number 4, usual Monday Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers. Glad that you're able to join us today. And today is a special edition of Pirkei Avot because we're going to be looking at the lessons of two great rabbis who are both connected to the holiday that we're ready to celebrate. Here in Israel, Lag BaOmer has already begun, and elsewhere outside of Israel, it's not yet Lag BaOmer, but it's the 33rd day of the Omer, which has supreme, very, very high significance within the Jewish calendar. And so we're going to be extracting a couple of lessons from Rabbi Akiva, who's a mega star in the Jewish world, Jewish history, and also Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. These two great sages, they lived in the year 100s, 120, 130, and on. Wonderful, wonderful rabbis, great master teachers. And tonight, because tonight and tomorrow in the Jewish calendar is Lag BaOmer, they are very heavily connected to Lag BaOmer in ways that might take a little too long to describe in these 30 minutes. But I just wanted you to know that this is a special edition in order to learn some of the great lessons that they taught us. So if you're already celebrating, happy Lag BaOmer, enjoy. And we are now ready to jump in to a couple of lessons from the Rashbi, which is a Hebrew acronym for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is said in our Jewish tradition to be the author or the compiler of the Zohar, the great book of Kabbalah, the great works of Kabbalah, the deep, mysterious parts of our tradition. It bounces off the 5 books of the Torah and gives us depth, and it gives us all kinds of insights that the average person would not see. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the 2nd century taught the Zohar, great Kabbalistic work, to his students. And one of the things that accentuates Lag BaOmer is that if you were to go around Israel and many other Jewish communities tonight, tomorrow, you would see there are bonfires to highlight the fact that Zohar means light. He gave a lot of light to the world with all of his masterful, deep teachings. And not only that, but there's a tradition that says that on the day that he died, which is Lag BaOmer, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai died on Lag BaOmer, that's the connection. The sun did not set until he finished all of his teachings. So the sun did not set means there was light the whole time, and that's why it's a custom and tradition to light bonfires. Not in the living room. I'm saying you have to be very, very careful where you're going to light these fires. But that is the connection. Who was the great teacher of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? And the tradition says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai got his rabbinic degree, so to speak, from this great rabbi on Lag BaOmer, was the great, revered, masterful Rabbi Akiva. So that's why today we're looking at a couple of lessons from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and then a couple of lessons by Rabbi Akiva. We should be here for about 2.5 hours. So here's the first teaching that we're going to take a look at. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon said, and we have a tradition that anytime in Pirkei Avot and other places, if it only says Rabbi Shimon, it means to say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who we just spoke about a little bit. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he says the following, Shlosha ketarim heim, there are 3 crowns. Within our Jewish tradition, there are 3 crowns. One is called the Keter Torah, the crown of the Torah, which we'll find out what that is. Keter Kahuna, the crown of priesthood, not the priesthood within Christianity or Catholicism, not that kind of priesthood with a collar, but priesthood meaning the Kohen families that served in the Holy Temple. So that's another crown, the crown of priesthood, if you will. And he has a third one, V'keter Malchut. There's also the crown of royalty, or the crown of kingship. And then we'll find out what his punchline is, okay? So basically what he's saying is, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we strive to honor those people who wear these 3 crowns. If you wear all three crowns, that's pretty good. It's heavy on your head. Mazel tov, mazel tov. What he means to say, anybody who wears these three crowns, male, female, we'll see that the categories we're going to widen a little bit. Anybody who wears these three crowns deserve not only the elevated status that they have, but they deserve that everybody should strive to honor them because of this, or because of these crowns. So take a look at Keter Torah. What does that mean? Keter Torah means somebody who wears the crown of Torah, and we should pay deference and honor to Torah scholars, male scholars, female scholars, rabbis. I would include that even cantors, chazanim, those people who have the tradition of the melodies that are sung throughout the year, each and every day, Shabbat, holidays, etc. We should pay honor, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, to people like that. We should listen to the words of rabbis and scholars. We should understand that they are very, very educated. They may not always sound that way, but in order to be a rabbi, an educated scholar, to have achieved a certain renown, you need to know a few things. It's not like just let me memorize 3 of the 10 commandments and I'll lecture around the world with that. Good luck. So anybody who wears the crown of Torah, whoever it is, male, female, scholarship, rabbis, cantors, and other kinds of people in that kind of a category, we should also understand that it's not easy to bear such a crown. People will say to me, hey, how was it being a rabbi of a synagogue? Well, it was fabulous. I had 25 beautiful years. Not bad out of 40. No, it was 25 years in America, in the American rabbinate. Was it always easy? No. There were a lot of burdens to bear with people who came with their challenges, their difficulties, etc., and they were looking for guidance. They were looking for answers. Can you give me a way to look at this or that? Not always very, very easy. Rabbis, scholars are also out there, and the more out there you are, the more people are going to critique you. You think that's easy, to be critiqued all the time? It's not that easy. It's not a very easy crown to wear if you're a rabbi, a cantor, a scholar, male, female, whatever gender you are, or neither, or both. How do you like that? So that's the first thing Rabbi Shimon says, that there's the crown of the Torah. So the next thing he says, that there's the crown of Kahuna, which is the crown of the sanctity of the family of Aaron the high priest and all of the descendants that came from him. But, today we don't have a holy temple. The Kohanim, all that priest family, they're not serving in a temple. And yet, at the same time, even without a holy temple, that those males who are from the Kohen family, they have certain privileges within the Jewish community. For example, when we read a Torah, they're the first ones. The Kohen is the first one to be called to the Torah. If we do a grace after meals, we invite any Kohen at the table to begin that grace after meals. And there are other kinds of things that the Kohen does. The Kohen has the privilege of blessing the congregation with the Kohanic blessing. May the Lord bless you and protect you, etc. That is the privilege of a Kohen. So today, besides those things, who would the Kohen, the crown of the Kohen, crown of priesthood, upon whom does that fall? Who wears that today? I think we're talking about functionaries of, let's say, a synagogue. So who are the functionaries? You got the rabbi, you have a cantor, you have people who are doing all kinds of things to make the place work. They're the ones that keep things going and functioning. There is even a prayer on Shabbat morning when we're in the synagogue, whenever we get back to the synagogue. God willing, it should be soon and speedily. There's a prayer on Shabbat morning that acknowledges and thanks the functionaries of the synagogue, the people who set up the Torah to be in the right place, the people who make sure that this happens, that the wine cup is poured, the people who make sure that the hand for the Torah is in the right place, the people that make sure that a prayer book and a chumash, a Bible, is put on the chair so that people have access, people who make sure the place is clean. We thank them, we appreciate them. So in the modern day, that might be the the crown of the priesthood, meaning those individuals who make things work in our community. Jewish community, general community, there are always people that make it work, and we generally know who they are. Sometimes they're hidden. They don't want anybody to know what they're doing because they want it to be pure. They don't want a whole lot of spotlight and limelight. But thank God there are individuals who make things happen in the Jewish community, the general community, and they wear the crown of priesthood. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that there's a third crown, which is called the crown of kingship, the crown of kingship. And I think what he means by that is to respect the person with the highest office wherever you are. So here we are in Efrat, Israel. Efrat has a mayor for 13,000 people. Where we left about a year ago, almost a year ago, in Ma'ale Adumim, there's a mayor of 40,000 people. There in the United States, there are mayors, there are governors, there are senators, there's a president. So who wears the crown of kingship today? These are, in my interpretation, people who have the highest office wherever you are. And what does it mean to respect the crown? It means to respect people in the highest office. Not only to respect the highest office, but the people in it. So I hear you already saying, there are people in whatever country we live in, we can't respect all the time because of yada, yada, yada. So, okay. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says we ought to. We ought to. If we don't respect the highest offices and the people who are in it in the land, we can revert to chaos in a snap. In a snap. So who wears the crown of kingship today? People who are in the highest offices of wherever you are. They deserve respect, they deserve honor, and they deserve for us to think about them and feel about them as though they are wearing the crown of kingship. But now comes the punchline. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, yes, there's these three crowns, but he says, and I'll quote it to you, the keter shem tov ole al gabehen. There's even a higher crown than all of this. There's even a higher one. So what is that higher crown? And he says it is a keter shem tov. It is the crown of a good name, which we might call the royal crown. L'chaim. That's the big crown. So many of the commentators say that's interesting. He said there are three crowns, and all of a sudden he comes with apparently a fourth crown. So are there three crowns or are there four crowns? It's a good question. And the commentators say he doesn't really mean to say there's a fourth one. What he does mean to say is that if you can achieve all the other three and maintain a good name in the process, if you can have the crown of kingship, if you can have the crown of being a scholar, the crown of Torah, if you can maintain the crown of being in the priesthood, people who make things happen, people who make things work, these are all people out in the public subject to all kinds of praise and criticism. If you can do all that public work in the public eye and maintain the crown of a good name, that, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, is the greatest crown of all. The greatest, the most worthy, and the one that everybody wants to wear. By the way, there are many Jewish organizations, as far as I know, who have an award every year. They have a dinner, whatever they have, a big banquet, and they give out an award called the Keter Shem Tov Award, the Crown of a Good Name Award. Who usually gets that? It's usually somebody who's like the unsung hero of whatever the organization is. Somebody who's put in all that effort and all that work and deserves a lot of recognition, whether they want it or not. Don't please, I don't want to be in the spotlight. No, because when people see that we're honoring you, they see the values that we're honoring. And so it's called, again, the Keter Shem Tov, the crown of a good name. So if you can do all those public activities and still maintain a good name, you have got literally the royal crown, l'chaim. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has another teaching in Pirkei Avot, and he says this. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says the following. Shlosha she'achlu al shulchan echad, 3 who are sitting at one table. Velo amru alav divrei Torah. They didn't have any word of Torah among them. What are they doing? They're eating, they're ordering, they're chomping, they're wiping, they're grepsing. Oh, that was a really good whatever. Those people 3 people at a table who don't pass a Torah word among them. Ki'ilu achlu mizivchei meitim. It is as though, as they're sitting there, it's as though they were sacrificing to idols. That's pretty strong. It's like they did nothing. They did nothing useful except feed their bodies. And the converse, aval, but, shlosha she'achlu al shulchan echad, 3 who are sitting at the same table, ve'amru alav divrei Torah, somebody offered a Torah thought while they're eating, during their meal, ke'ilu she'achlu mishulchano shel makom. 3 people who ate, could be 3, could be more, people who gathered together, Jewish people, whoever, gather together, and they have a word of Torah among them. Somebody says, oh, I just heard a lovely Torah thought about this week's portion. Oh, I just heard something about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Oh, did I hear about Rabbi Akiva? What a story I've got to tell you. If something like that happened at the table, what does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai say? It is as though those people ate from the altar of the Almighty. So what does that mean to say? That means to say God is very pleased with people who gather at a meal and offer a Torah thought. They offer a spiritual insight about something or other. So what is he saying, basically? Is he trying to mess up all our good meals? Is he trying to have people roll their eyes during a meal when somebody's delivering a Torah thought? Is that what he's trying to do? Is he like a big party pooper? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, let people eat and have a good time, and what do you want from them? So here's what he's reminding us of. I don't know if this will resonate for you. I hope it does. It could totally not resonate for you, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is what he means, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He says that there's a higher purpose than just physical pleasure, even at a meal. There's a higher purpose. So you and I would say, what higher purpose? I'm sitting at a restaurant, or I'm having a meal at home with a few other people. That's pretty much the higher purpose. Got a good steak, some potatoes, nice side dish, had a beautiful appetizer, a dessert. Wow. What more do you want? We're eating. So you need more than that? And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says yes. Because when we go to a table, we need to feed our body, but the body is not the only thing that came to the table. There's something else that came to the table. And that's what we call our soul. Our soul has also come to the table. And in the same way that the body needs to be fed, he says, our neshama in Hebrew, our soul, that spiritual part of us should also be fed at the same time. So what he's saying is, and I've experienced this 1,000 times, whether I initiated the Torah thought or somebody else initiated the Torah thought at meals or wherever, the fact that a spirit, yes, I hope I'm back, a spiritual thought at a meal not only elevates the meal, but it can often be sweeter and longer lasting than any dessert served at the end of the meal. A spiritual thought, something that elevates everybody, elevates the spirit. And that's what he says. If you can do that, it doesn't need to be some esoteric whatever. Doesn't need to be a piece of Kabbalah, a piece of mysticism. A thought, a simple thought about the Torah portion, about something you thought of, something you just read, something you just learned. You saw this on the internet, you want to share it. You may get some eye rollers looking at you and say, where'd you come up with that? We're having a meal. Where are we, in synagogue? This is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is saying. Yes, even not in the synagogue, even not in a spiritual setting, to offer a Torah thought, a spiritual thought, something that lifts and elevates, will provide more sweetness and longer lasting than the most delicious dessert. So we have about 10 minutes left, which means that we have time for a couple of teachings from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, what a huge name in our Jewish tradition. Rabbi Akiva is said to have had 24,000 students. This is what we study in the Talmud. He had 24,000 students, and all of them died during the first 32 days of this Omer period that we're in now, and they stopped dying on the 33rd day, Lag BaOmer. That's the connection between Lag BaOmer, which is tonight, tomorrow, and Rabbi Akiva. His students stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, on the 33rd day, tonight and tomorrow. As to why they died, there's a whole rabbinic discussion. Did they die in a plague? Did they die in a war? Did they die because they were not respectful of each other? This could go on for a long time, and I gave a class on this to a group of adult men this morning for an hour, and we still didn't finish the whole topic. So it's a little bit too much right now to deal with. But Rabbi Akiva, again, huge. If you never heard of the name, Google Rabbi Akiva, and you'll find references as long as the day is long. Here's one of his teachings. Rabbi Akiva Omer, he says the following: Sechok, laughter. The kalut rosh, silliness, literally means the lightness of the head. He says, laughter, lightness of the head, margilin et ha'adam le'erva. They will accustom a person to immorality. So, you may be saying, what in the world is he talking about? What, a little humor, a little levity? This is going to bring people to immorality? What? You're kidding, right? And the answer is, no, I'm not kidding. I'm just quoting Rabbi Akiva. He says, laughter, levity, silliness will accustom a person to immorality. So, what is he saying? I mean, this needs some clarification. He's saying that if you laugh all the time, and if you're silly all the time, and kind of like that's how people know you. You know, he's a jokester, he's a kidder. All he does is, joke all day, and he does silly things, and he's a goofy guy, goofy lady. He says, being that way will start to break down inhibitions between people. And when you break down inhibitions, you move on to areas that you may be surprised you're getting into. What does he mean a little bit better than that? He says that this kind of a mood or attitude of being silly all the time, laughter all the time, etc., it's good in measures. He's not saying be morose. He's not saying be funerary your entire life. He's just saying that don't cross the line of over silliness, over imbibing. Let's have another joke, another silly thing, and let's laugh and ha-ha, and that kind of a thing. He says this also affects your self-respect. The way you're going to look at yourself at the end of the day, are you going to be happy to be that kind of a person instead of having a more serious side as well? He says that it dissolves a sense of embarrassment, a sense of embarrassment that everybody should have. But if you're doing all these levity, laughter, silliness, pranks, all kinds of joking around without showing your serious side as well, it's going to affect how people see you, A case in point, you're somebody that would like to get married, you want to date, and somebody ask about you, so, Frank, what do you think about Frank? Frank who? Whoever. What do you think about Frank? Somebody I was thinking of dating, I've heard his name mentioned a few times. Do you think he would be a good date? Maybe he's a good match? And people would say, he's a heck of a nice guy. He's got a really, good sense of humor. He's fun at a party. He does all kinds of tricks, and he does all kinds of things that make people howl with laughter. But as far as a mate, he just seems to lack a certain serious side about him. So I don't know. And I think this is what Rabbi Akiva is talking about. He's saying that the way you behave, over silly, over laughing, over pranky, if you will, this is going to maybe have people think that you are vacuous, meaning you vacuum you all day. You're vacuous. You've got like not a whole lot in between here. By the way, maybe you do, but you're not necessarily projecting that. So Rabbi Akiva is worried that if you're too much like that, not only can it affect your own self-esteem, not only will it affect the way other people see you and size you up, but he says that you have to be careful with being over silly, over pranky, over laughter, etc., because you may cross a boundary right into things that are immoral, which is not always sexual. Immoral things means you let your guard down, you don't think clearly, you start speaking gossip about people, you may do other things that other people would think are immoral. It's not always sexual, but certain immoral things. So he's saying you have to be careful. You have to be careful about your mood and your spirit, what you show others. And if you have a serious side, it's good to show it instead of always being that other type of a person. So I have about 5 minutes to share this next lesson with said by Rabbi Akiva. And I think this is a more emotional issue for some people. I'll mention it, and if it's too emotional, I really, really apologize, but I'm going to try. Rabbi Akiva, Hu Haya Omer, he used to say the following: Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tselem. Beloved is mankind. Beloved is the human being who has been created in the image of God. Beloved is the person who has been created in the image of God. But he continues, Chiba Yetera, God shows an even greater love for the person. No da'at lo shenivra olam, shenivra b'tselem. God shows how beloved we are to him by creating us in his image. And he shows even more how beloved we are to him by the fact that he told us that he created us in our own image. He made it known to us. He didn't have to tell us. He could have kept it a secret. Let that part of God shine through, and if we sense it and we feel it, well, I wonder what that is. Maybe it's a part of God. God so loved us that he gave us a piece of him in each person. That's already a beautiful lesson. But Rabbi Akiva says God showed even greater love when he told us that he placed a piece of him in each and every individual. And he continues, he says, I'll say it in English, Beloved are the children of Israel who are called the children of God, and even greater love is shown by telling them that they are the children of God. So what's the lesson, and what's the potential emotional part of this lesson? The lesson is telling us that we are privileged to know what God didn't need to tell us. We are privileged to know that we have a piece of God in us. We are privileged to know within the Jewish community that we are called the beloved. We are the beloved of God. As it says, we are the children of God. Banim atem lashem Elokechem. That's what it says in the Torah. You are the children of God. We feel beloved to know that, and God didn't have to tell us that. But he so loved us that he wanted to let us know about these very special ways that he loves us. So, what is God doing? And this is the potential emotional part. And if it's too emotional, I apologize. God is saying that if you have a loving feeling about somebody, it's very important to tell them. If you love somebody, it's very, very important to tell them. I say that this is potentially emotional for people because besides everything else that I do, I also do counseling. When I was a rabbi in synagogues, it was unofficial counseling. People would come into the office, Rabbi, I have a problem, etc. I'd like to share this with you. Now I see clients in this kind of a counseling setting. I can't tell you how many times people would say to me that their parent or parents rarely, if ever, said, I love you. Now, they might have felt it, like an individual could have felt that there's a piece of God in them, like an individual could have felt that we are children of the Lord our God. But God specifically told us, and that's what many of my clients report. They neither parent or one or the other hardly ever or perhaps never said, I love you. It was very often that I would meet with a family that's ready to have a funeral because somebody passed away. I would meet with the family the day before to get some history about the deceased. And I would always ask the following question, not always, but often enough, which you may think is highly insensitive and is not worded well. But I would throw it in just to get a sense of what was the family dynamics. So I would say, ask the following question. So tell me, whoever passed away, mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, whoever it was, sibling, spouse, tell me, did your, whoever the deceased, did they love you? Now, very often the answer is, oh boy, sure. Sure, I heard it all the time. Heard it all the time. But it's uncanny how often it happened that when I would ask that question, all of a sudden the people in the family who are sitting in the living room would look at each other. And I would say, did they love you? They would look at each other. It was like synchronized staring, as if to say, did he? Did she? I can't tell you how often this happened. So then somebody would say, well, they sure behaved like they did. I mean, they, and not only that, but they also, but did they ever say it? And then the people around the table or around the living room would ask each other, did fill in the blank, do you remember him saying, I love you? And often was the case that they would say, now that you mention it, no. I believe he, she did, but I don't remember hearing it. So that's, to me, the emotional part of this teaching, is that we all need to feel love. We all need to feel like we're loved. We all need to feel like we love ourselves. But perhaps even more important, we need to hear it from people, especially if they love us. We need to hear it. It's so important to say it, to say those words, I love you. Showing love is one thing, but saying love, you actually using the word, using the phrase, I love you, is, I think, quite a whole other story. So, dear friends, we've run out of time. I wish all of you a happy Lag BaOmer if you're celebrating tonight and tomorrow. It's a joyous time filled with a lot of music, a lot of bonfires, if the locale where you are allows it. And I hope you enjoyed today's lessons. Thank you for joining us. God willing, Wednesday, either at night or during the day, wherever you are, Wednesday we'll be looking at 5 Derech Eretz lessons in the Torah, in the weekly Torah portion. I hope you can join us for that. Again, thank you for being here with us tonight, and wishing you a happy Lag BaOmer, a great week. Be healthy, be happy, be safe. Take care, everybody. Shalom.